I've joined the Rawvolution at NatuRaw because I know that not all raw food is created equal. I'm passionate about feeding dogs as nature intended. After all, you are what you eat, and so is your dog. At NatuRaw, there are no compromises, no confusion, just real raw food made with integrity and a conscience, offering 100% transparency, supporting British farmers, and only using the highest welfare assured ingredients is so important. They're a certified B Corp and reduce their carbon footprint by utilizing solar power and planting trees. They only use completely plastic-free packaging that's home compostable. Prudence and Mr. Binks are simply loving their nutrient-dense and balanced recipes. So try NatuRaw today. Just go to naturaw.co.uk and grab 20% off your first purchase with my code AnnaWebb20. Join the Rawvolution and feed exceptional raw food. Hello, I'm Anna Webb, and welcome to this week's episode of A Dog's Life. We're chatting about integrated healthcare with Isobel Hunt, and this episode is sponsored by Zumi. Isobel Hunt, welcome to A Dog's Life.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
No, gosh, I can't. I've been wanting to do this for ages because letting the cat out of the bag, we've been friends for a number of years because we've got an awful lot in common, not least that you used to live close to my hood.
I did, yes, back in the 80s, which feels like a very long time ago, but we'll gloss over that. But yes, no, it's good to chat to you. We have known each other for a good few years. So
Yeah, and CAM4Animals, which you're a co-founder of. Tell us a bit more about that.
right, well, we set it up back in 2018, really to give pet or animal guardians access to choice. So, CAM4Animals, CAM is complementary and alternative medicine. And we're not against conventional medicine by any means. What we sort of stand for and want people to have access to and knowledge about is that combination of the right thing at the right time. So it might be a mix of all sorts of things. It might be complementary, it might be conventional, just whatever's best for the animal in front of you at the time. So we set up, as I say, we set up in 2018. We've got a fantastic website. We decided that there was a lot of information, and to this day, there's even more information out there, but there wasn't anyone that had a one-stop shop. So you can go onto our website and you can see what we're about. You can see what the different modalities or treatments are that might be available. So anything from acupuncture, herbal medicine, homeopathy, all the bodywork stuff like massage, physiotherapy, hydrotherapy, T-touch, Gala therapy, which is a form of massage. And you can find out where to go to get a trustworthy practitioner. So the website is based on trustworthy information, and we signpost people to trustworthy organizations, sort of, governing bodies. So, for example, the British Association of Homeopathic Veterinary Surgeons, BAVS, we direct people to there, and you can go on their site and find a homeopathic vet. Just quickly to say that all the vets, all the herbal, acupuncture, homeopathic vets, and so on, are all conventional vets. Everybody has to do their usual conventional studies and qualifications, and then the holistic vets, the integrative vets, go on to get extra qualifications, expertise. So it really broadens the opportunities to optimize your pet's health.
Yes, no, amazing. Well, yeah, because, well, my vets that, I love, they're integrated vets like Barbara Jones of the Oakwood practice.
Yes.
Yes, so she is MRCVS and DH afterwards as well. So, being a vet that is, totally qualified conventionally, but then obviously to expand their knowledge and work, with herbs and homeopathy, basically. I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, well, it's brilliant, says Anna. I mean, I've obviously been using homeopathy and herbs for a very long time. Mr. Binks has had a whole raft of homeopathy actually this morning, but it is quite a contentious subject, something we haven't really, only because a lot of conventional practitioners don't understand how it works in an energetic way within the body.
Absolutely. I mean, I was very, very lucky with our local vets because I use the wonderful Sue Armstrong, who is similar to your Barbara that you just mentioned. In my opinion, she's the leading holistic vet in the world. She's absolutely superb. She's
We've all got
forever.
our favorites. We've all got our favorites.
Exactly, yeah, but and she's absolutely brilliant. I found her with my first dog when I lived quite close to her practice down in Yorkshire, and then we moved up to Scotland. But I'm kept in touch and worked in conjunction with our local vets, Crieff Vets, just along the road, and was very lucky then to have Kirsty Dewar, who understood where I was coming from, and she was quite happy to work with Sue. And later on, with Jack initially, and then more recently, Fern Fraser amongst the other vets. But Fern, in particular, she was our particular vet, absolutely open minded, very happy to work alongside Sue. So Crieff Vets did the Jackson El Pass, so it's past tense, did the sort of fire brigade on the ground stuff. And as I say, liaised and worked very much with Sue, who was almost my primary vet, even though it was all done at a distance. She met Jack a few times, which was important, but we did a lot of work, you know, calls and emails, and it worked. It dovetailed perfectly.
Well, it does, because obviously Barbara's in Shropshire and I'm in Hackney, but she's, put her hands over all the dogs, even Gremlin, my cat, over the years. So that's a very important thing to integrate into it. But it's great that you're vet. Maybe I should move to Scotland.
Yay! No,
Well,
honestly, they've been
it's it
brilliant. I mean,
yeah, that is, it's brilliant. I mean, I would say, because it definitely isn't the norm. It's a shame. It's a shame because, to be open-minded and embrace treatments, modalities is really important, as not every dog is a robot. They're all an individual with certain, nuances, certain issues that kind of remain, certain blood levels that remain slightly elevated for no apparent obvious reason. So you've got, and being aware of these things that you can help energetically, which is how homeopathy works. I think it's great. It's an extra tool. When you've hit a brick wall, there is something else you can try. And in these situations, I think, it's always that motto, isn't it? Try again, until you get it right. And that's something that is offered in the CAM sphere. Would you agree?
absolutely. I think it gives you more options. And I think, yes, I was, lucky with our local vets. Well, not lucky. I think I just was able to give them enough information to enable them to encompass Sue Armstrong's way of working, and that, certain things are useful in certain circumstances. So we had antibiotics when needed, but it was very much underpinned and it's not really a word, but over encompassed or encompassed by Sue, who works primarily with homeopathy, but does other things as well. But I mean, basically Basil and then Jack, and in fact, the whole family, she treats humans as well, have been very well served by homeopathy in various situations, whether that's been, longer term things. We had him, one of Jack's many things that he had wrong with him included pancreatitis. We were on a long-term remedy for that. We've had, Sue does a wonderful calming remedy. So that's been brilliant for going to the vets. Because Jack, I think, ended up with a bit of PTSD at some point. Just, he used to, he struggled a bit there. So it was brilliant to go in with, giving him a dose of the homeopathic remedy beforehand. Another remedy that we've used on and off through the years has been injury remedy. So that's arnica, ruta, and rhus tox. So that, that's arnica for bruising, but also it encompasses, supporting the muscles and tendons and ligaments and so on. So, when Jack sort of, crash landed, capering about in the woods or whatever, it was fantastic to support him with that. And it can help, I think, things like homeopathy or herbs and, good nutrition, which is a cornerstone of optimizing health, having your species appropriate diet. It can stave off the need to go on to your your things like painkillers, which aren't necessarily good long term for the liver and kidneys and so on. It can just allow you to keep a better balance all the way along. It keeps your options open, perhaps for longer. So yes, I can't. We did very well, and I'm certain Jack's life and Basil's life were extended by this integrative approach.
Yeah, I'm sure, because it's all about the precautionary principle, and it's all about keeping the body burden in the body, in humans as well, to a minimum, because over time, accumulation of toxins can do harm. So keeping the body burden to a minimum, and obviously homeopathy has no body burden. We're all about it. You mentioned rhus tox. Binks has had that this morning, and leadenham and cilicia. So I'm really worried about seeds and not necessarily grass seeds, but it's so dry. It's so dry everywhere. We need some rain. It's like, I was trying to do a rain dance today. It's like, come on, because it's so dry that there's little bits of plants everywhere. And, and dogs with amazing radar ears that are my favorites are a nightmare because things can fall in them.
Jack's ears were the same. Jack's got very similar ears to Mr. Binks, I have to say.
Yes.
And actually, talking of leaden, one of the other things, Jack had a mast cell tumor, donkeys years ago, and I mean, I was very much sort of minimal vaccination, et cetera, et cetera. And so from then on in, we had sort of no chemical intervention as regards, vaccination, flea and tick and worm treatments. So, but we live in tick country up here in Perthshire. So I had to be really vigilant with ticks and be careful where we walked. He did get ticks. I always examined him very carefully after walks. He did get ticks, and we would use Leadom. We'd zap it with Leadom 2 or 3 times for 2 or 3 days. And if I didn't manage to get the tick out, or I didn't notice it until it was obviously far too late, because obviously you can't see, even in a little Jack Russell with fairly short fur, you're still going to miss things.
Well, he was mostly black, wasn't he? So with ticks, that's quite difficult.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So I would put silica, again, Sue's protocol was to then use silica for a few days, which is great in enabling the body to eject things like bits of tick or splinters or grass seed or whatever. So that was in my sort of, I've got rows of homeopathic remedies in the house, and as well as the settling remedy, the injury remedy, and the Legium and the silica, especially, well, practically all year now these days, was right at the front there.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, look, I've always got a stash of key remedies in the cupboard, and they can't do any harm. I know it's hotly contested that they don't do anything, but I think, it's testament that a lot of people use it. And, you've got Ainsworth's, the amazing homeopathic chemist that is sponsored, or sponsored, that's not the right word. The patron was the late Queen and now is King Charles.
Yes.
As interesting, yes, the royal family love homeopathy. Yeah, I believe King Charles, actually, obviously I don't know for sure, but I have heard this from sources, gives his livestock, on the duchy estate to keep antibiotics and so on to a minimum in livestock, that he uses homeopathy. And so does Barbara, because Barbara Jones has a dairy herd.
Yes.
Yeah, so so it's just interesting. It's another platform, isn't it, really?
Exactly. And I mean, the thing I quote people if they start rolling their eyes, which, yeah, some people do, and some people trust me, and because I so utterly trust Sue Armstrong, there's a sort of trustworthy path there, if you like. So not many people raise their eyebrows.
It's all about the, as we say, this integrated approach. So, for me, I don't believe that one thing is like a miracle cure. In fact, I don't believe in miracle cures. I don't think they exist, I'll be honest with you. But I believe in a combination of, in a strategic way, can really help stimulate the body's own natural healing process, because the body is an amazing thing that strives for homeostasis the whole time, so balance and healing. Our bodies are amazing, but sometimes, they just need a little bit of pushing in the right direction.
Yes, absolutely. I absolutely agree. Yeah, it's a matter of enabling the body to heal, isn't it? And sometimes you do need, Jack had chronic kidney disease and at one point got, UTIs, and we needed to use antibiotics, but we supported his gut. He'd been on Adored Beast apothecary gut soothe and digestive enzymes to support his gut anyway. So he was supported in that way, because obviously antibiotics can wipe out the gut flora. So and so it began to get a bit worrying. So we did use homeopathy there, and we also eventually put him on something called Urinade, which has got, I've forgotten, cranberry juice or cranberry in and one or two other things. And once he was on that for the rest of his life. We never had a UTI. What I did do is I got some human urine dip sticks. And so if I was suspicious that something was happening, I would dip his urine, which was great fun trying to catch urine in a small Jack Russell that was highly suspicious. But that's just another story.
Well, this is, you can take control over things, definitely yourself. That's an important thing, I think, for pet parents, to appreciate.
It's keeping on top of things, isn't it? So if there was a suspicion, and we had one or two, slightly elevated markers for an infection, so I had a homeopathic remedy up my sleeve from Sue, and that would knock it on the head, but at the same time, I knew I could go to Crieff Vets and go and see Fern, and if needed, we could, have some antibiotics if necessary.
Yes.
But we didn't ever need to do that, which is fantastic. So that was a supplement with a backup from the homeopathic remedy.
You can manage it. I mean, look, this all takes me back to Molly, Urinade, but Urinade is a conventional product. Going back a bit with Basil, when was there the moment where you kind of had that moment where you realized that maybe you should be feeding fresh whole into the bowl?
Right. Well, actually, it happened more with Jack. With We never went raw with Basil. But we did with Jack. So we had fresh food with Basil, various different foods with Basil, but including fresh food. But it was actually with Jack that we did it. And I was probably sort of late to the party. we, fed various gently cooked foods beforehand, and then decided we got the freezer capacity to get raw into the picture. And so, as I've heard you say, not every raw food is created equal. You've still got to have your balanced with any food, it's got to be properly balanced, species appropriate, and so on. So in conjunction with Sue, who has done a lot in the nutrition,
No, well, guess what? I mean, I know Sue, and the thing is, I know Sue from the days when I was working for Natural Instinct, actually.
that's right. Yes, she helped them earlier.
Yes.
Yeah, she was their consultant, and she has been for several different, including, I think, Nature Raw at one point.
Oh, excellent. Well, natural raw is what, I'm loving and feeding at the moment. And I totally agree about not being created equal because, you think of meat, it's actually British meat can earn a lot of money abroad. So, a lot of farmers don't want their meat to stay in the UK. They want to sell it, to other countries because it gets, good money. So it's important to find raw food firms that do source their meat in the UK and get those British farmers with high animal welfare standards to, supply them because it is in demand. It is in demand. I only learned that quite recently, actually. So our meat is good meat.
Mhm. Absolutely. And basically, we sort of narrowed it down to a handful. So we looked at honeys who helped us at a later stage with a gently cooked recipe that they created especially for Jack when he had kidney disease and pancreatitis. Um, we looked at natural. I always want to say it the wrong way.
No, I think you can say it like that. It says I just think the way it's spelt is
Right.
natural. I just like the rhythm of that, but lots of people say nature raw as well. So
My background is wildlife conservation, actually, so I suppose I want the word nature in it. So it was very, very early days with them at the time. And the other one we looked at was Bella and Duke. And Bella and Duke we chose, or I chose in the end, because it's literally just up the road. And again, not only have all those companies, got excellent meat and meat sources and vegetable sources and so on, but there's the ethical side of it as well. So we chose Bella and Duke because they source their meat hopefully as near as possible to their headquarters, so supporting Scottish farmers, etc., etc., fewer miles to deliver it, and so on. So that the fact it was local was the main reason at that time for choosing them. So
oh no, absolutely. I mean that's a stalwart brand, no question about it. And I think, that what's so strange to me is that still the raw and the fresh sector represents a tiny proportion of the dogs living in this country. We've got about 15.5 million dogs, living in the UK at the moment, apparently. It's a lot of dogs. I mean, I remember when it was 4 million and everybody thought that was a lot. So, yeah. So only about 18% of 15.5 million, and I can't do the maths on that because I'm not very good at maths, however many that is, it's not very many really, is it, comparatively, are actually fed on fresh and whole, and going back to this whole integrative approach, if you are what you eat, and so is your dog, then, I just wish people would feed unprocessed food, basically, because for me, it's this sterile thing. Who wants to eat sterile food? Because that's, if everything people say about the microbiome, which I'm beginning to get a little bit, hang on a minute, chaps. We know very, very little about the microbiome. I mean, it was only really discovered kind of a decade ago, which isn't very long. So I think, a lot of people have been jumping on it in the human sphere as well. Just a healthy bit of perspective on it. A lot of people were helping dogs way before 10 years ago with proper nutrition and getting great results. So I think it's about common sense. I think that, a living creature shouldn't eat sterile food. They wouldn't, if they were in the wild and choosing what they wanted to eat, it wouldn't be top of their list, I don't think. Most dogs aren't allowed in supermarkets, etc. So being sarcastic now, so they'd have a bit of trouble getting it anyway. So I just think it's all about understanding how the body works and how cellular energy is created, and the power of nutrients. Hippocrates said, "Let medicine be thy food, and food be thy medicine." And I think he was quite a spot on guy in 600 BC. I wish I'd met him. I mean, what an amazing chat. I mean, he was informed.
He'd be quite impressed with us discussing raw food and fresh food, I would think. No, I think you're right. I think, it's a shame, and there's all sorts of reasons for why, people feed their dogs what they feed them, and there's marketing and so on. But it does make sense that, as we're learning as our own species, to feed fresh food, whether it's raw or gently cooked, and, nutritious food, because food, without good food, it's one of the cornerstones of optimizing your health, our dog's health, cats, horses, guinea pigs, whoever, whatever. So I think the more that people see and the more we can publicize it and work with people, I know, vets like Karen Becker in the States, and we've got a podcast on our website from Bella. Oh, I'm so sorry, I've forgotten her last name. But, willing to meet whoever their client is from where their client is starting from. So, there's always things you can do. You can add sort of toppers like, sardines or blueberries or whatever, so it's one of those learning processes, what you can afford, etc., etc. So, I'm so glad that I was able to have access to people that knew, like, Sue and the people at Honeys that we went to in the end, when Jack was struggling with raw food as a sort of more elderly dog and needing support for his kidney disease that he'd developed. It's yes, I am lucky, and again, supported locally on that 100% sort of thing. So, but good food is vital in supporting every aspect of health, including mental health.
Well, absolutely. That, and there is bacteria in the brain that corresponds to bacteria in the small intestine now, and science has gone a long way, to highlight these connections that were once kind of hypothesized about. But
Yes.
yeah, it is very important. It's the three pillars of health, really, is what I learned in my study. And nutrition is one pillar, the immune system is the other pillar, and the physical frame is the other pillar.
Yes.
And really, if you keep all of that ticking along, the whole helps itself and heals and stays well.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
you need all of it functioning, really. And that's, for me, I think nutrition really is so important. I think I'm listed on CAM4Animals, aren't I, with my nutrition advice?
Yeah, absolutely. And
I don't mind doing the sort of, slowly, add a sardine, all the rest of it. But I just think you're wasting time. And I think with dogs, they don't live very long and you want to optimize it. I mean, Jack did. There was a piece in the Times actually and the other day all about how it's interesting. There's been a shift apparently away from designer crossbreeds just recently back to people looking at breeds and thinking, right, what dog is going to be healthy? And the headline did include to avoid vet bills, I will say. And I think, wow, at last, sensible. And the Jack Russell is back in fashion for
oh
being,
wow,
long
really
lived.
trendy.
Yeah, setting trends, and border terriers, apparently. Those are,
Oh, right.
yes, yes. So that's hot news. It was in the Times this week. So it's interesting, how pet ownership has shifted over the decades so enormously. It wasn't that long ago. Dogs lived in a kennel, which wasn't cruel. It was just that that's where they lived. They had their place. They were out there. They were working with us. They had jobs to do. Jack Russells were killing and perhaps eating a lot of rats. My Mr. Binks, I mean, he was the hero of the Victorian era as being the top ratter, and that's what he was created to do. That's why he's got disproportionately massive teeth. He really has. His canines are massive, for such a small dog, you see.
Oh,
So, and I'm really proud of them actually. So yeah, it's interesting, dogs and people, we want the best for them, don't we, Is?
absolutely, yes. And I mean, yes, we might have unknowingly followed a trend. We got Jack, talking of buying locally, we actually got Jack from a reputable breeder in the village. So we saw great granny, mum, obviously. And a lot of those dogs were superb ratters. Sadly, Jack never got much opportunity because that wasn't really our thing. And he didn't sleep in a kennel, but he basically slept in the bed from more or less when we got him.
Well,
So,
obviously, because you're in the modern era. I'm just saying,
yes.
um,
Oh, yes, I know. But what I mean is I didn't think I was going to have a Jack Russell Terrier, I have to say, but became besotted with them. Not up for another dog yet, but if we do, it may well be a Jack Russell because Jack was just the best. Well, Basil was too. He was a collie cross from Battersea, so they both were absolutely brilliant dogs. So yeah.
well, Isabel, what I'll say here is that old cliche: dogs are like their owners.
Oh dear. I haven't got sticky up ears, I don't think. So
Oh no, brilliant. I've so enjoyed this chat. And it's hard, taking that, taking that step to bring another dog in. But, in a way, I do believe, that energy never dies. So every time you say Jack, there's energy somewhere.
absolutely. Yes, I'm sure. Absolutely. He's still around. And I know, yeah, and we did, every stage of life is as important as the rest of it. And I think, the last stages and the end of life and beyond, that again we've had a fantastic sort of team surrounding us with that as well. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but the sort of last months, he died just before Christmas last year, and he was nearly 18, so we did well. And yes, the walks shrunk, but I know fine well, and people that know him, another dear friend, Sue Reed, we knew fine well, us as a family, that he was still, yes, the walks had shrunk, but he was still enjoying his walks. He was still sniffing away. We used to visit the fruit shop every morning. I'd walk in and go, morning, and everyone would go, hello, Jack. Oh, hello, Isobel. Might talk to you. And then they would, if Mary in the shop had been making corned beef sandwiches or something, she'd, come and give him a bit of corned beef, or he could bite the top off a pear, and I'd stick the rest in my pocket because he would have eaten the lot. He always loved his food.
That to me is the key, actually, loving their food. You hit the nail on the head.
Absolutely, yes.
It's when
Yeah,
a dog stops eating, that's when you've got
yeah.
to worry.
Yes. Yeah.
And they always say, you know, there's always that one breakfast. Oh no, I love that. Love those anecdotes. You see, but you had that lovely routine and that whole massive bond.
Yeah,
Of course, their walks get shorter. I mean, an 18-year-old dog is not the same as a dog that's 18 months old. I mean, it's this.
exactly.
I mean, it's the same here at the minute. I'm Prudence, that was, literally the bull terrier, like a bat out of hell. She would run on the Hackney Marsh. Not anymore. So it's now we do our plod. We call it plodding, and it's all a massive worry. But if we plod, and plodding is plodding. So we have our funny songs that we
Yeah.
sing on our walks. I long for that running, to the horizon.
Yeah. You just have to go with it, don't you? I mean, it's very much a tightrope, those latter stages. And Jack, we didn't fall off. We were helped again, with homeopathy. We had Zumi. We put him on Zumi, the hyaluronic acid.
Oh my gosh, did you? I didn't know that.
Yes, no. So I was looking up because you forget what happened when, but so he died in 2025 and he was on Zumi. We put him on Zumi in January that year. So he was on it till, nearly, 11 months. And Sue was great. When I went to Sue with Basil, I had him on all sorts of supplements, and she took a look and she said, "Right, I think we'll just take all, shove them to one side and decide what he actually needs. Less is more, keep it simple."
Yes.
So we started from scratch. And from time to time, because I'm always reading and looking at things or listening to podcasts or whatever, and I would go to her and say, "Oh, I've just been reading about this. What do you think?" I don't think Jack needs it, and Dad, there's not much point, she would say. But there were one or two things that snuck in. So we had,
How did you find the Zumi worked for Jack?
it was great, actually. Sue looked at it and she said, "No, this looks good. We can add it to the
Because
other."
it's made by vets, you see. So, it's
Yes, and they were very helpful because I had lots of stupid questions at the beginning when I went on. They were so helpful. And I was looking back, I used to write, because I didn't see Sue in person, I would write notes of, various, like a Jack's journal, if you like.
yes.
And I was looking back and I'd written down back in January, so I hadn't been on it for very long. And I was observing things like, we'd have a sustained trot. He'd gone from maybe not trotting terribly well into a canter, not for very long. He was elderly, but canter would have been easier for him than the trot. But he went back to trotting. His default would have been trot, and he went back to that default nice little trick trot, trick trot. Um,
Yeah.
he walked on better. He did more stretching. He was less, became less hunched, so it really helped. And I think it also staved things off for him.
It's so interesting. No, Binks and Prue, they've been on it since about the beginning of October last year. So where are we? So it's about 9 months, isn't it now? And I think because it doesn't conflict with any other supplements, because
Exactly.
it's very proud to be what it is, which is hyaluronic acid, just with a bit of vitamin C to stimulate activation, because that's what it does. And it's just the movable joints. But of course, because that's what hyaluronic acid, it's, we make it ourselves. It's just so annoying. It depletes with age, damn.
Yes.
So it's so why not top it up? So yeah, so I mean, Binks, he's only actually got one hip, so
Yes.
we want to look after the hip he's got. It's sort of,
Oh,
I know, bless him, but I mean, he's great at the moment. Just a bit worried about this dry weather at the moment, and bits of twig, bits of seeds, about everything. So we can't go to the park at the moment. It's too dangerous. It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's like,
the
don't go
grass
to the
is
park.
too scary.
It's way too scary out there at the moment with all these grasses lying everywhere, but bits of twig and so on as well. And it's just far too dry. I don't like it. I'm sure it gives the dogs dry mouth just being out in all this dry air. So
Yeah.
we just use the garden, really. There's twigs in there as well at the moment. My anxiety is quite high at the moment, Isabel. I think
Yes.
I need to take some arnica myself, because arnica, because it's like a strong remedy. So it's great for joints, but it is actually an emotional remedy.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, to
Emotional bruising as well. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. There's so much to talk about here. Please will you come back, and please can we tribute this episode to Jack?
Yes, that would be lovely, actually. And it'd be nice to actually talk about those last, wee while, because, again, we got great support from various different people, in the sort of end of life care. And it'd be nice to maybe go through that in a bit more detail, because I think people find that really difficult. I mean, I found it really
It's
difficult.
so hard. It's like a nightmare. I
Um,
mean, I yes is the answer. Let's do that. I think it deserves a whole episode so people can concentrate on it as well.
Yes,
so we've covered a lot here, and I hope the tips to resonate is, think about homeopathy, find a holistic vet. There are a few, there's not that many, but there are a few around.
Go to the CAM4Animals website and
yes, go to
how
there.
to go about finding one, and how to work with your local vet.
Yes.
A referral to people, and people that, not just veterinary medicine or vets, but body workers, massage.
Yeah. No, the whole thing, this is the 3 pillars of health, you see. So physical frame, immune system, and nutrition. But yes, absolutely, go to CAM4Animals, 100%. All the links are going to be in the show notes. Please come back soon. Let's get a date in the diary. Are you up for that?
Yes, no, I'd love to, because as I say, there's we could have talked about so many different things, lots of little anecdotes throughout the whole of Jack's life,
Well, we'll do it. This will be part
so
one.
There's more there if you'd like. So
we'd love it. We'd love it. We just have to be mindful of human attention spans, which I'm sure a chimpanzee has got longer ones at the moment. Our closest relative. Anyway, on that note, thank you so much, Isobel.
Thanks very much for having me. I've enjoyed it.
That's our show, everyone, and I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, go on, rate and review the show wherever you tune into your podcasts. Thanks again, of course, to Isobel for joining us today, and all the links to CAM4Animals are in the show notes. Thanks, of course, to Mike from Pod People Productions for all the music and production as ever. And if you're interested to find out more about Zumi and about Natural Raw, head to my website, annawebb.co.uk. And in the recommends page, there's a way to redeem your discounts. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe. It's free. And that way, you'll never miss another show. Bye for now.